Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. I have none other than Chris McGill. Chris, how are you today, sir?
Doing well. Thank you for having me, Victor.
You prepping for winter?
Yeah, yes, I am. The weather's been a little undecided lately. We had some
Yep.
nice low 60s last weekend here in the Midwest, but that lakefront breeze is coming, and
Yes,
it's going to
sir.
only get colder from here.
Ready or not, Chris? Let's just skip all the small talk. Who doesn't know Chris McGill? That's what I want to know, and that is we'll just cut through the chase, and we're just going to jump right into it. I want to utilize our time wisely. I know you're a very busy man, and I'm so thankful when you come on. A lot of people really love when you come on this channel. I get a lot of positive feedback from my community, and they really appreciate our videos. But I want to ask you, we're just going to go straight into it. I need to ask you two questions because in my last episode of Weekly Rookie Card Report, I had a commenter ask me specific questions about Card Ladder. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna talk to Chris tomorrow. I'll just ask him and we'll start the show off with that. So it's a two-part question. The first one is, does Card Ladder sales include auction fees and shipping costs?
Does not, as a general rule. So shipping cost can vary, and sometimes it's for certain auction houses, it can be dependent upon the level of the item and where it's being shipped to, and that can be difficult or tricky to calculate. And other times on eBay, sometimes it's free shipping, sometimes it's not. And I definitely think that's useful information. And it's and I hear we've received this feedback from people before. It would be nice if you could see shipping fees. And we've thought about different ways to implement it. Historically, we haven't implemented it. It's inconsistent across marketplaces. There's some challenges there to figure out how to properly do it. One of the ideas that was suggested to us was to put shipping information in a separate category on the card information itself. So you might see like price realized and then shipping information right next to it. So we've been thinking about that. We've gotten feedback to that effect. We've been thinking about what to do about it. But the status of the database at this time is that no shipping fees or shipping costs are factored into any of the prices realized that you see. So it's also, at least in one sense, it's just price realized without it's apples to apples. It's just prices compared to other prices, but that doesn't take away from the fact that shipping is a cost and it is something that's incurred by buyers. And when buyers are like, for example, when I track my collection in Card Ladder, I do include fees in the price that I paid. And so when I set up sort of the tracking of my collection, I build those costs in. They are reflected within the price that I paid. So that is one way that users can sort of use the collection feature to help themselves. But shipping isn't the only fee. There can be other fees too. So like sales tax is a fee that buyers pay. And that's one that I don't think we're ever going to be able to track, even if we wanted to, because we don't have the information and we shouldn't have the information. The information is private as to what is the domicile of the buyer. So if a buyer's in California, they're going to pay a very different sales tax than if they're in Oregon. And we just don't know. We don't know if this card is being shipped to California. We don't know if it's being shipped to Oregon, and that's private information. That is the information about buyers that doesn't get made public. So sales tax is one of those areas where we're probably never going to be able to track that and build that in, but that is a very real fee that people pay too. So this I don't know. Was there another fee mentioned or
auction fees as well?
Okay, so auction fees, those such as like buyer's premium or something like that, those are factored in. So anytime a price gets printed on, pick your favorite non-eBay marketplace, that price gets built in. So if there's a buyer's premium that ends up getting attached, and usually there is 20%, 21%, 22%, that information is inclusive in the price that's printed by those marketplaces. And that's what we do. We grab the final price that they end up displaying on their website and their results. That's the price that we grab. So the fees, in particular, I think buyer's premium is the fee here. That is included in prices.
Okay. And then the second part of this question was, and I think I know the answer, but I'll let you answer it. What about like card show sales?
Those vast majority of the time are not going to get tracked. And there's several reasons for that. The first and the most obvious one is that they're private, so they're not being documented electronically. So, most of the time it's cash trading hands, or even if there is an electronic transfer, still that's not being printed anywhere publicly for us to retrieve it. We do have a private sales reporting process, and it is possible to report a private sale from a card show transaction, but we need the proof. So if somebody does a deal with a dealer and the dealer issues them an invoice or a receipt, and we're able to see that there was an electronic transfer of funds made, maybe they spoke to the dealer and said, is it okay if I PayPal you? And so they transferred the funds through PayPal. If we have proof of the transfer of funds and we have, corroboration of the price paid, then it is feasible that we could possibly record that sale. Now, we also, another thing that makes it a bit of a hurdle to track those for people submitting private sales is that we need the permission of all parties to the private sale. They need to consent. And as of very recently now, everybody who's a party to the sale must be named in the sale. So up until about a week ago, actually, we would name one person. We would name the person who reported the sale. And that's sufficient. They have to be fully transparent. They need to have social media. They need to be able to be reached. And that was our requirement. But now we've ratcheted up the transparency as far as we possibly can by requiring every party to a sale to consent to have their name attached to it. So if somebody at a card show does want to report a sale to us, they're going to need to show proof of the transaction, corroborate that that's the price, and then get the permission and the consent of all parties to that sale to attach their name to it. And they all need to have a form of contact, whether it's a website or a social media account. So it is conceivable. We have recorded sales from card shows and in person at shops and stuff, but the proof needs to exist before we'd be willing to bring that sale in.
I love that. Okay, thank you for that. Now, have you been watching any of the pre-war episodes that I've been doing by chance?
Yes, I have. I have not watched the most recent, which is you and
Dan.
You and Dan.
Yeah.
You and Dan.
Yeah.
But I watched the one prior.
Okay.
I've watched. And I love the classification stuff, man. That's that is my obsession lately.
And I know you don't dive into pre-war or nothing like that, right?
I don't, but I do think about it a little bit. Without going into detail, I have thought about it a little bit.
Okay. And what have you thought about? Because I heard you on an episode. You're in so many places anymore. I forget what.
I think about, so one of the things I've been thinking about for the last year and a half is, what is a sports card? Mm-hmm. What is, just as a general inquiry. And so when I think about that question, I try to come up with a formula to define it. I try to look at all eras to figure out, to make sure that my definition is applicable to all situations. So from time to time, I will look at a pre-war card or a vintage card or something like that. I know it's not pre-war, but I was looking at the Cons Wieners cards as a very interesting example, because those cards, they have the bare minimum. They have the picture, they have a little caption on the back, but they're lacking a card number. I try to find all these test cases to figure out how applicable my formulation is. So I just, that happens. Like, I also recently was diving into some of the classification schemes for the T206 stuff, the Jefferson Verdict. I was going through one of the editions of his book. I just like looking at it and thinking about this stuff.
You're a card nerd.
Oh, guilty as charged.
Yeah, and so that's what led me to this episode that I wanted to do with you, because you and I got in a conversation via Instagram direct messages, and I know you're doing a big run on like printing plates and one of ones and that sort of thing, and you did a post on X about printing plates, and I always had my view of printing plates, and then your view was kind of opposite of mine. And I was like, well, hold on here a second. Let me talk to Chris to see what's up with printing plates. I typically do not consider printing plates for a true rookie card designation. And the reason why is because I have always viewed them as a printing tool, right? It's a mechanism used to manufacture the card, not so much a card in and of itself. So to me, it falls out of the definition of sports card, and I think that's the angle that you were taking, and I wasn't quite clear of what you were meaning, and I think I want to start basically like through the text that you and I were talking. What is your definition, Chris, of a sports card?
Ooh, okay, that's a huge topic. I'm not. Let me just like just gesture in the direction of answering it without fully committing to anything. Okay, a sports card needs certain physical properties. I think it needs to be a card. I think it's right there in the name. There needs to be the indicia that it is a card, a small square piece of or rectangular piece of paper. Without going too much into the physical properties, I think it needs to at least be passable as a card. And then for it to become a sports card, I think basically where I end up landing on this is that I think it needs to have the primary purpose of belonging to a set. All right. It needs to have the primary purpose of belonging to a set of sports cards. Mm-hmm. That's what I think is ultimately what everything turns on. And so there can be other purposes. The item can have other purposes, but you start running into like edge cases, like is a pocket schedule, is that a sports card? Mm-hmm. Because it can meet the physical requirements, and it can display an athlete, and it can have information about sports on it. But is that a sports card? And so in that instance, I say, well, what's the primary purpose? Is the primary purpose to belong to a set of sports cards? Does it have a number? Is it sequentially numbered with a series of other sports cards, giving clues that this belongs to a set of sports cards? Or is it serving a different purpose? Is the primary purpose to give people dates when things are happening? Is it to help people buy tickets to go to sports games and stuff like that? So I use the primary purpose test. And if the card, to the extent to which the item conforms to having the primary purpose of belonging to a sports card set, I consider it a sports card. Now, I don't think it's black and white. I think there's a continuum. I think some things are like very strongly sports cards, and other things maybe not as strongly sports cards, but still might have an argument. But some of the indicia that I look for, there should be something sports related depicted. The subject should be, it doesn't need to be necessarily an athlete. It could be a coach. Maybe it could be a team. It could even be a mascot, but the subject should be sports related. And then there should be other indicia that indicate that the card belongs to a broader set of sports cards, like sequential numbering is a huge clue. If this card is number 7, and then I can see the card number 8, and I can see card number 6, and I can see card 5 and 4 and 3. And if they if all the cards have the same manufacturer logo, and they belong to the same brand, and the artistic design is similar across all the cards, giving more indicators that they all belong to the same set, then I'm getting stronger and stronger that this is a sports card.
Okay. And I know in the text thread that you and I kind of got into the differences between, I use the word intent, you use the word purpose. And I'm more in line with, what did the original manufacturer, why did they create that item? And like, if it's a postcard, right? To me, that has the intent is for that item to be written on and shipped out in the mail. But I think we're splitting hairs there. I think when you look at intent and purpose, it's kind of two words that are kind of similar in definition. But I do see what you're saying. And ultimately, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, does it come from an actual set? And I think we're both saying the same thing as far as that's concerned. How do you view intent?
Intent is very important, but I view intent as a secondary source. So I think the manufacturer can indicate their intent by distributing checklists, marketing materials, packaging on a box, packaging on a wrapper. They can issue statements, but I think those are secondary sources. I think the primary source is the item itself. And the manufacturer has the full-fledged opportunity to express its intent when it makes the item. But after it's made the item and the item is entered into circulation amongst society, amongst all of us collectors, at that point, they have to let it stand as is. So for example, if a manufacturer made all these postcards a long time ago. And then today they want to issue a correction and say, well, these really aren't postcards. Our intent was sports cards. These are actually supposed to be sports cards. I'll say, fine, that's a secondary source. But if I go to the primary source and I look at that postcard and I see that there's a place for a stamp and a place to write a message and it's not numbered, sure, it depicts an athlete, but it's not the traditional size, it's oversized. I'm going to say on my continuum of primary purpose, the primary purpose of this is skewing more towards being a postcard than it is towards being a sports card, because I don't see the indicia that I like to see before I decide that it's a sports card. So I take the item as the primary source. Now, so if the intent is somehow declared through a secondary source and it contradicts what the primary source says, I'm going to go with the primary source. However, if the secondary source, the manufacturer declaring their intent, if that information doesn't contradict the card or the item itself, if it doesn't contradict the primary source, but it augments our understanding of it, if it helps us understand it better, as long as there's no contradiction, then I find intent to be useful. But I don't like it when the intent could possibly contradict the item itself. If the item itself is going to be the expression of the manufacturer's intent, and then if they want to come in and explain more later, and as long as it doesn't contradict what the item itself says, that's fine. But to me, that's why I use primary purpose, because I want to be, I think anybody should be able to pick up the item, look at it, observe it, and infer the purpose using the evidence that's present on the surfaces of the item.
Okay. And then for sake of clarity, what is your definition of purpose? You're looking for, is it a set?
Exactly. I'm looking for indicators that the primary purpose of this item is to belong to a broader set of sports cards.
Interesting. I like that. Thank you for that.
Sure.
At this point, I want to bring up, because in that text thread that we were in, I asked you specifically, and you gave me some images and you started to break it down for me. And I know that, like, by the end of it, I was like, dude, this would make a great episode.
So I love your channel, man. We love stuff like this.
And here we are. But I'm going to share the image with the audience so they can kind of see what we're talking about. And here it is. I kind of just created this for the sake of clarity.
Nice.
And here's the 3 images that you sent me, and then you kind of schooled me on printing plates, and a lot of this stuff I did not realize until you broke it down for me. Professor Chris, please explain the printing plate dynamics.
This is a very rare opportunity where I may have thought about something more than you. So I'm going to relish this. Okay. So, but I should start with the caveat that I've only recently started thinking about plates like a few months ago. So I may make mistakes and make a blunder, and there are certainly people more knowledgeable than me out there. But as I started thinking more about plates, the impetus for this was because I came into possession of some plates through a trade. To make a trade value even, somebody sent some plates back to me, and I started researching it and found it to be a little more nuanced than I originally thought. So I came up with a classification system of breaking plates into three types, 3 categories. The first category is the raw plate, unmodified, unadjusted, unupdated, just quite literally a tool that was used in the manufacturing of a card. I think there's a slight distinction that could be made between, say, like a lever that gets pulled to print the item, just because the item does have some artistic properties or it has some photographic properties. It does depict an image. But at its core, the primary purpose of that item was to function as a manufacturing tool to produce cards. And so that's what we have. We have an example 1 there, which is just a raw, unadulterated printing plate. Just it's got, the faded image of Jordan on the front and just straight up metallic surface on the back. Okay. And I don't think that I think it's tough to argue that that's to make a strong case that that's a sports card. I think that the primary purpose test is going to be tough on that. Okay. Then we go to example 2 of the 3 examples. Now, example 2 is where things start to get interesting. So Michael Jordan's first appearance on plates, which is kind of like my reference point here, was 1997-98 Stadium Club. And in those plates, he appears on 8 different plates in that product, 4 plates for his base card and 4 plates for the Team of the 90s Chicago Bulls card, which features him. And so, for example, too, here I've got one of the Team of the 90s plates displayed. So for this plate, once again, we have the raw printing plate, the tool of manufacturing, but the manufacturer has now taken it upon themselves to add information, to add content to the item. So here, Topps took a sticker and slapped it on the back of this printing plate. And here's the sticker has all sorts of information on it. So the sticker says, for example, and this is big, I think, for my sports card primary purpose test, it says number 5. Okay, so there is a card number or a plate number. I don't want to assume anything, but there is a number given that if you look at all the other plates that also exist from 97, 98 Stadium Club, they line up in sequential numbering. So this particular Team of the 90s is given plate number 5. It's also identified as a printing plate on the sticker on the back. The sticker says 1997 Stadium Club Basketball, Series 1, gives the team, Chicago Bulls. That's the subject of the card, is the Chicago Bulls team. It says commemorative card. It tells you that the plate color is cyan, has the NBA logo, it has the Topps logo, and then it has the fine print, which contains the copyright information. In other words, there's a lot of hallmarks of a standard sports card that are on this, that have been printed on this sticker, which has then been attached to the backside of the plate. So here we're starting to see indicia of a sports card now. The sequential numbering, the naming of the subject, the copyright information that's displayed, the name of the manufacturer, the name of the brand. So we're starting to see this item possess indicators that its primary purpose might be to be a sports card. And then the third example, this one I think is the strongest example of a sports card. The third category is where we have a traditional card now. We have cardboard that has a hollowed out section for a memorabilia window or a relic window. And so, think of the traditional rookie patch autograph card where you've got the image of the player and then you put a piece of jersey or a piece of or a patch goes into that window. Or sometimes we see memorabilia windows contain relics like bat knobs or buttons from a hat or a piece of gloves, piece of cleats, shoestring. We see all types of different relics inserted into cards. And so here we have in the example 3, we have a giant relic window, but instead of it being a jersey or a patch or some sort of memorabilia item that came from like a game, say, or something like that, instead the memorabilia or the relic that's inserted into the card is a plate. It is a plate. So here we have the plate functioning as a relic inside of a standard cardboard sports card. So like we've got the example 3 on the screen here is a printed plate from the 2007 UD Masterpieces Michael Jordan card, which is a White Sox card of him, and the plate is inserted inside of the memorabilia window of what otherwise is a standard sports card, and it's got all the hallmarks of a standard sports card. Otherwise, it's got the manufacturer, it's got the MLB logo, it's got the fine print, it's it's got all the general indicators of a sports card. So I kind of broke the plates into these 3 categories, Victor.
It makes sense. I like the third example there. To me, you make a strong case that that's a sports card. It can be considered a sports card anyways. The example number 2, I see what you're saying. I'm a little confused with the number 5. Is that the actual card number of this card in the set, or is that just a 5th printing plate?
I believe it is. I believe that is card number 5. I can check that really quick on trading card database, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay, yeah. And then the strong case I like is you also have the league license there, along with the copyright permissions and all of that kind of pertinent information that belongs on an actual card, right? So that's a solid case. That's a solid case.
Yeah, I can confirm that card number 5 from 97, 98 Stadium Club's base set for basketball is the Team of the 90s card. So that number 5 lines up with the checklist.
Okay, then you make a solid case there that could be considered a card. Now, I kind of see a progression, an evolution of, I don't know what year example one came out of, but then
example one is actually not even a printing plate for a sports card. It's a printing plate from a newspaper from like the early 90s.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then we kind of move on in 1997 and then 2007. I really haven't laid my eyes on a more modern day version of a printing plate. How do they look today? How do they?
Honestly, they're quite similar. Most of them are like fall into the category of example two, except the sticker on the back is much more aesthetically pleasing now. And something that's really interesting about the evolution here. So example two actually doesn't say one of one anywhere on it.
Huh.
So they didn't start, for at least Michael Jordan anyway, the first Jordan printing plate to be numbered one of one comes from 2004-05 Upper Deck. And I have one of those plates actually, but it's really more of a traditional card. It's the plate is embedded. So this really falls into situation of example three, where we have a card. It does have a one of one sticker on it, and this is the first time that a Michael Jordan plate actually got numbered one of one. And it's extra cool because the plate is a relic and Jordan signed the plate. So there's a lot of cool first stuff going on with that one. But that was one of the ones I took back in a trade. And so, the fact that they didn't label it a one of one is something that I think about. I think about that, and it actually causes me not to consider it a one of one in the strict sense. In order for something to reach the standard of being a one of one to me, it needs to say on its surface that it is a one of one, because otherwise we start entering into a bit of a slippery slope. So for example, can a pop one be called a one of one? Or in an extreme hypothetical scenario, if every copy but one of a card was destroyed, is that now a one of one? And in a certain sense, in a descriptive sense, they are, but in a strict formal sense, I do think the card needs to say one of one. Now, by the time we got to I just showed that 04-05 Jordan, that by that point they were numbering printing plates one of one, but they weren't doing it yet in 97, 98, which is an interesting wrinkle. Now I have a puzzle, or not a puzzle, but a brain teaser, or a tricky scenario for you relating to rookie card classification and a plate that I'm just going to throw at you. And I don't look, I don't know the answer to this. Okay. This is a bit of a quagmire. All right. So my total plate collection is I own 4 different plates that either are embedded in a card, or all my plates are either of example 2 or example 3. 3 of them are Michael Jordan, which I took back in a trade. But then this one is the first plate I ever went out of my way to buy. And I bought it pretty recently. It is a plate from 2015-16 Lux. So 2015-16 contains the rookie cards of Nikola Jokic, and Lux is one of the products that made cards during 2015-16. All right. Now, this card here is a printing plate from an insert from Lux. So already we're losing the pure true rookie card designation.
Mm-hmm.
But it still is a printing plate from a 2015-16 card, which is fine. But here's where it gets tricky. This plate was inserted. You can see in the fine print there's the copyright date on the attachment on the back of the cards is 2017 Panini America. And the reason it says that is because this plate was inserted into 2017-18 National Treasures. So even though it's a plate that was used to make Jokic's 2015-16 insert from Lux, even though the plate was made from a rookie year card, the card itself wasn't released or distributed until 2017-18 National Treasures, and the copyright information on the backside of the card says 2017 because it came in 2017-18 national treasures. So what do you think? How do we classify that one?
Man, that's yeah.
It's a brain teaser. That's what I was looking for. It's a brain teaser.
And the regular card is dated the same year.
The regular card, to my knowledge, I don't own a copy of it, but I would assume it bears a copyright date of 2015 or 2016. But that's a good question. Yeah. I don't know.
Man, I don't either. I don't know why they would, but it was included in the 2017 product.
Oh, sorry. It was included in 2016. I said the wrong year. It was included in 2016-17 National Treasures, which is still not a rookie year. Jokic's rookie year was 2015-16. Okay. So it was clearly, without controversy, without disputes, it came in a product. It was distributed in a product that came after his rookie season. It was distributed in a second year in a 2016-17 National Treasures product.
Man, I have no idea, man. What do you
Exactly. It's a tricky one.
It is. It's something that, I would have to like really do a lot of homework to kind of chisel it all out. But it doesn't, on the offset here, it doesn't, I would say no if I were to like, gun to my head type of thing.
Right.
Quick response.
I lean no too, but I haven't fully worked out
the details.
How to analyze it. Yeah.
Right. All right, man. Well, that is, I love this. Let me bring this back up here. But I love this exercise, man. And I'm going to be honest with you, Chris. You made a lot of sense to me, and thank you for sharing that bit of information. This is stuff that when was the first year that printing plates came out? I know it was like in the 90s, right?
I know Michael Jordan's first appearance on a plate was 1997-98 Stadium Club.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there were plates from other sports or, but I know for sure that was Jordan's first time.
It was thereabouts.
Yeah.
And I remember, because I was a car dealer at that time, and I do remember, printing plates were always advertised anyways, or assumed that they were one of ones, even though example 2 doesn't say it. It was always believed that they were one of ones. And my other thing is that I don't recall seeing a whole lot of this stuff. I don't know where these cards were or who was collecting them, but you very rarely saw them in showcases at card shows. And if you did find one, I mean, they would sell pretty quick. But that's kind of interesting stuff there. Example 3, you totally blew me out of the water with that one, because I did not even know that they created one of ones like that. So that's, to me, is the strongest case for that. And then I do like that even though it could be a sticker, as simple as a sticker, it still shows the league properties and all of that. To me, that's legit. But am I in the position to call printing plates now, like under a classification process? Do we call that a parallel, perhaps? What's the attribute that we assign?
That's a great question. It's a great question. Yeah. I don't know. It certainly bears some of the hallmarks of a parallel, but it ain't quite that. It's just a standalone. It's a printing plate. It is what it is. Right? I think that's right. I think it's a printing plate that was then given additional information by the manufacturer that sort of starts nudging it into the direction of being a sports card. But I think to meet the criteria of being a parallel, I think there needs to be more similarity to the base version. Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
It's not my sphere that I dive into. What is your take as far as the hobby's desire for rookie cards that are printing plates? Is that a hot commodity in your niche here?
No. Like, so this Jokic, which, it's rookie, even it's certainly not a true rookie card, and even its rookie year status is in question. But I was able to snipe this on eBay for a few $100. So the market for them is not in any way, hyper competitive or super expensive or anything, which makes them kind of neat if one has a taste for them. But the reality is they're cool, but and they're novel, and it's fun to research them and think about them, but they just don't have the luster and the feel that a traditional sports card has. They just they're materials of the manufacturing process. No matter which way we slice it, that is what they are. And so they're dull, and they're metallic, and they don't shine. They don't have crisp colors. They don't have crisp, vivid images. So they're an acquired taste, to say the least. And I think they'll probably always be obscurities rather than mainstreamed.
Yeah. Well, let us know in the comments down below, what is your opinion of printing plates, more particularly in the area of rookie cards? Should they be considered a true rookie card per se, or should they be considered more of a tool? I would love to know your opinion down below. I want to get out of here because I promised, or I begged Chris to give me 2 episodes. So Chris, I thank you for coming on and schooling us on this topic, and let's do it again real soon.